Welcome back to another deep dive, everybody. This time, we're going to be exploring this idea of joyful living,
Joyful living.
using excerpts from Gita for joyful living.
Okay.
And this text goes really deep, I think, into like the root of suffering.
Yeah.
And it's something that seems to affect us humans like more than any other species, you know?
It is intriguing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The source points out that it seems particularly prevalent in those of us with more education.
Oh, really?
So maybe our ability to think deeply, while a gift, can also lead to overthinking and discontent.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And get this, the source claims that no object in the world can truly give us happiness.
Oh, wow.
That's quite a statement.
Yeah.
How can that be possible?
Well, let's break it down.
Yeah.
The process that the source describes,
Okay.
it all starts with encountering something through our senses.
Okay.
A delicious meal, a beautiful sunset, maybe even an attractive person.
Ah, so everyday experiences can trigger this.
Precisely.
Okay.
These encounters often spark desire.
We want to savor that meal again, witness more sunsets, perhaps get to know that person better.
Okay.
That desire then motivates us to act.
Right.
We make reservations, we plan trips, we gather the courage to say hello.
Yeah.
This is the cycle the source outlines. Sense, objects, desire, action.
It sounds almost natural, doesn't it?
It is.
It's how we experience the world.
Yeah.
But where does the suffering come in?
The issue arises when we believe that fulfilling these desires will ultimately lead to lasting happiness.
Okay.
That's the flawed assumption at the heart of this cycle.
So it's not the desire itself that's the problem, but our belief that satisfying it will bring us lasting joy.
Exactly.
Okay.
And because that assumption is flawed, we find ourselves on a never-ending treadmill.
Yeah.
We achieve one goal, but it only generates new desires.
Right.
And the cycle repeats.
And the source compares this to the HIV virus, harmless on its own, but a catalyst for trouble when other factors come into play.
Right.
How does that relate to our discussion on desire? Think of it this way. The constant pursuit of fleeting desires weakens our ability to find true, lasting happiness.
Okay.
It makes us vulnerable to a whole slew of negative emotions.
So it's like setting ourselves up for disappointment from the get-go.
Yeah.
What kind of negative emotions are we talking about here?
Think about it.
Yeah.
When things don't go our way in this pursuit of desires, what do we experience? Anxiety about the future, stress in the present, frustration over minor obstacles.
Not to mention jealousy when others achieve what we desire, or even guilt when we feel we haven't done enough to reach our own goals.
Sure.
It's a slippery slope, isn't it?
And the source makes it clear this isn't some rare or unusual phenomenon.
Okay.
These feelings are a universal experience, likely something you as the listener have encountered in your own life.
It's almost a relief in a way to know that this struggle is so common.
Yeah.
It makes you feel less alone, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it also makes you wonder, if this cycle of desire is the root of suffering, how do we break free?
That's where this concept of joyful living comes in.
Okay.
The source defines it as the ability to remain happy regardless of external circumstances.
So it's about finding a sense of peace and contentment that doesn't depend on achieving specific outcomes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The source suggests that true happiness, this joyful living, comes from breaking free from that relentless cycle we've been talking about.
Right.
But how to actually achieve this state?
Yeah.
That's what we'll explore next.
I'm definitely intrigued. What does this path to joyful living actually look like?
Well, this is where things get even more interesting.
Oh.
The source explains that Lord Krishna, a central figure in the Bhagavad Gita, provides a roadmap to achieve this state of joyful living.
Hold on.
Okay.
Are you saying there's a specific method we can follow?
Well,
I'm all ears.
before diving into the specifics,
Okay.
the source mentions an interesting detail. Another key character, Arjuna, asks Krishna to describe what a person who has achieved joyful living actually looks like.
Oh.
He wants a blueprint,
Well, wow.
a profile, if you will, to better understand the end goal.
It makes sense, doesn't it?
It
You
does.
need to know where you're going if you want to get there.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Krishna, being the wise teacher that he is,
Mhm.
provides just that, a detailed description of a joyous person and the practices that lead to becoming one.
That's incredible. So does this mean that Gita for Joyful Living lays out a step-by-step guide to achieve lasting happiness?
That's what we'll be uncovering in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll be exploring the qualities and practices that define a joyous person, according to this source.
I'm on the edge of my seat already, but before we get ahead of ourselves,
Yeah.
let's recap what we've uncovered so far.
Okay.
We've established this relentless cycle of desire. Encountering something, craving it, taking action to obtain it, is the root of suffering. And the problem lies not in the desires themselves, but in our attachment to their fulfillment as a source of lasting happiness.
And as we discussed, this attachment leaves us vulnerable to a whole range of negative emotions because our well-being becomes dependent on factors outside of ourselves.
And the antidote, this joyful living, involves finding a source of happiness within ourselves, regardless of what's happening in the external world.
Precisely.
Okay.
But how do we cultivate this inner peace and contentment?
Yeah.
How do we become a joyous person?
Well, listeners, for those answers, you'll have to join us for the next part of our deep dive, where we'll unveil the secrets to achieving joyful living, according to Gita, for joyful living.
We'll explore the specific qualities and practices that can lead us to the lasting happiness we all seek. Until then, keep diving.
Bye.
Bye.